Welcome back, everyone, to Norbert's Adventures. So this week we're going to go into talking about my air pump that I use to run all these tanks and how I go about doing water changes through my whole fish room. Now, it's extremely time consuming with the water changes when it needs to be, but obviously I have a process that does well, and I think I've cut it down to about an hour and a half for all 30 odd tanks. So it's kind of cut it down a lot. It was a bit time consuming at start. I had to learn real quickly of how and what process I had to implement to make it quicker. Obviously this side here leaks out to the door and then into a tub outside, and then obviously this side here goes from here out into the grass that I've got out back there. So there's over 200 litres that empty from this side, then that goes to the tub goes to the grass eventually as well, or plants that I've got sitting outside. So it's it doesn't waste any water. Obviously I use all the water that I take out of the fish tanks because it's great for plants. But so then when I refill the tanks, obviously I've got tanks that run off of RO water, so I've got an RO system running outside. From there I fill them into the 20 litre drums or 25 litre drums. Then I can either obviously transport them around to each tank separately, or I can throw it at the top here. Usually set one up at the top just in case anyway, but set up there, and then I can just drip it down into the all the shrimp tanks I've got on here, as well as I've got another shrimp tanks down the bottom of the other side of the wall. So that's how I go about with the RO waters. So the processes I have for filling the rest of these tanks is that I got a 19mm hose that I've connected outside to the outside tap, which I lace around the outside of this room and then in through the door. And obviously I've got a little hook thing that hooks onto each one of these tanks, and then basically I fill it up to the line that I've got marked on each one of these tanks. I do it for all these ones on this rack, as well as the ones that don't need RO on this rack as well. Sometimes I loop it to the next room, as I've got the Oscar tank in there, and I just use it to fill it up. But that's quite literally as simple as it is to refill these tanks. Obviously I add prime to the water because of the chlorine and such, but I don't really add much else. I might add some the shrimp safe fertilizer, but that's about it. So we've also got some super red bristlenose fry, some lemon bristlenose fry growing at the moment. The male in the tanks just let all the wigglers out in the super red tank, so there's like another 100 odd swimming around the tank as well, which I might have to catch soon just to target feed them a bit. The one of the front tanks had peppermint fry for the first time, so we got a colony of 18 peppermints, and they've actually finally decided to lay eggs. I think we've survived, so we've managed to keep 70 of them that we can count, which hopefully they will continue to grow and that number will stay consistent. But we're hoping moving forward that these guys start laying on a regular basis. But it was an extremely long wait. I think it was a few months after we got them that we had to wait. And the first batch got eaten. So we were pretty quick to jump on this second batch and move them out of the cave and into the breeder box, which I think in the end he ended up kicking them within 24 hours. So we didn't even have to touch the cave, we just moved the eggs out of this tank, away from all the bottom dwellers and all the angels, and then put them into a breeder box and done well since. So that's one to look forward to. So now we're going to talk about the air pump system that I use to power my whole fish room. It's a Vivosun commercial air pump. It does about 1,100 litres per minute, or per hour? Per minute, I think it is. It's one of these big compact air pumps, so I'll throw some photos in as well to show you, but it basically powers all the tanks I've got in here. I've connected irrigation pipe from the pump itself, runs along the wall on this side, and then basically comes up into the rack system. I've taped it down along each one of these rows, and then I've got the drippers you get for the irrigation tubing, and basically made a little hole with a knife and put those in there, and then I've got the air line dropping down to each one of these sponge filters, and I've done the same with this side here. So basically it's one full system that's all connected into one, and it runs all of the tanks I've got in here. It's basically the best thing I could have done. I used to run about 10 odd extra filters, pumps all together, and it was just consuming with power and a lot of airline tubing. So getting this commercial pump was probably the best thing I could do for the whole system. So now to talk about something a little bit different. I've been running a whole bunch of filters on top of my sponge filters, obviously, just to get some airflow or movement in the water. I've recently decided to throw an Enheim filter into my L333 tank, which has not exactly lived up to what I thought it was going to be. It's very slow, it doesn't push as much water around as I wanted to. So I went ahead today down to Marine Plus and got myself some Ocean Free Smart. It's the 800. I love these things. These filters I use in all of my tanks that I've got bristlenose in, and beautiful things. I love them. The filters themselves are easy to wash out. You basically take the bottom canister off, put it in water. I usually put it into the dirty water that I take out of the tanks, wash it out. It's got a middle canister bit inside the sponge as well, which you can put like charcoal or a few different things in there to make the water pretty. But I usually just leave what's in there and basically just use the sponge. And obviously they come in different sizes. I usually run the 800s, or for my bigger tanks like my Oscars and such, I run the 1500s. Which again, awesome. I've got one of these in my Oscar tank, and I'll be putting one of these in my Tetra tank over here, so I can move some of the smaller ones out into these tanks over this side here. But these ones I love as well. Like I said, they push an enormous amount of water out. It's got a 3-year warranty as well. You can adjust the flow rates as well, so you can put it onto slow flow or high flow just by moving a little tag bit. Let me see. So obviously the 1500 ones, yeah, there you go, 15 litres per hour, 1500 litres per hour. They're 120 centimetres tall as well for the 15, and for the 8 they do 800 litres an hour. So these move a lot of water really quickly. And for these, obviously these 2-foot tanks, that's overkill, but I need some sort of movement because obviously plecos like the movement in front of their caves, which triggers breeding, which is a benefit for me. So as always, thank you very much for stopping by. Thanks for watching, and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up in the comment section below. And please, I also want to know what you guys use for your filtration systems, whether or not it's canister filters, internal filters, or sponge filters. Just let me know. I'll see you next time.